Hey there, welcome to this class. In this class, I'm going to share with you 10 things you need to know about smart objects in Photoshop. So let's start. Let's start with our number one tip you need to know about smart objects. That is creating smart objects. Now, to create a smart object, I'm using Photoshop CC. So if you have the CC version of Photoshop, you should be fine to work with me. I'm going to create a new document by going to File, New. So with this, I'm going to choose the web preset and I'm going to choose 920 by 1080p. Double click on it. That will automatically create our new document. So once I have my document created, what I want us to do is I'm going to show you how to create a smart object. So for example, this layer over here is a blank layer. To create a smart object with this layer, click on the layer, you right click and you choose convert to smart object. Anytime you see this icon, that is a smart object. That is how to create a smart object. So with this icon, when you double click on this very icon, it opens a new tab. So now we have two tabs here. We can switch. In this tab, assuming we place a circle, I'm going to hold the shift key, making sure that I have stroke set to none, so red color, and I'm going to place just a simple circle here. With this in, if I save, Ctrl S to save, and I cancel out of this, we have the shape here. So smart objects by definition is what we call non-destructive editing. It helps us put elements in that object. So now the layer here becomes our object. Let me rename it object. The layer here becomes our object, and now that the layer is our object, we can actually double click on it and put anything we want. We can actually put an image. Say we want to put this image over here. If we put it here and we commit and press Ctrl S to save, we cancel out, it comes here. So basically that is how you can create a smart object. The second thing you want to know about smart objects is preserving raster image quality. Smart object is very key in preserving raster image quality. Let me show you how. In doing this, in the project first, I have some photos in that I want us to use as an example. So with this photo, for example, once we bring this photo into Photoshop, so I'm going to launch my Photoshop and make sure that I have this. So I'm going to drag this onto a new bar. So by putting it here, I have it here. I'm going to unlock the background, bring it in and unlock the background without converting this image into a smart object. Before I even do that, let's duplicate this layer. So we're going to duplicate this layer by using the shortcut key for that is Ctrl J. So Ctrl J to duplicate. Now I'm going to name it normal layer and I'm going to name this smart object. We're going to convert this into a smart object by right clicking and choosing convert to smart object. And with this normal layer, so what we are going to do is just select the crop tool and let's maximize the size. Let's increase the size of this. So commit to the crop and we move this here. So now we have two identical images. They are the same. What I want us to do is let's try show to home control and hold the shift key. It depends if you're using Photoshop 2020 or 2019, you don't have to hold the shift key when you're resizing an image, but you have to obviously do it from this edge. So with this, I'm going to minimize it to this size and press enter. And I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to minimize this to this side and press enter. Now, both images has been minimized, right? Let's maximize it again. First of all, let's start here, the smart object layer. Let's maximize it. Let's increase the size. Now it looks perfect. Let's increase the size of this one too and let's see what happens. Now you can see the pixelation. They are the same layers or they are the same image, but one has been pixelated. You don't see the difference much, but once you zoom in, you can see that one is really pixelated. And the more you decrease the size and increase the size, it pixelates the image. The next thing you need to know about smart objects is save free transform setting. This is very key. Let me show you how. I'm going to show you this by in the project files. I'm going to bring this image, one of these images here, like the business card. I'm going to bring it here. And once I have this here, what smart object allows us to do is to actually create something like this with the help of the free transform setting. So smart object plus free transform allows us to create this kind of perspective view of the business card. Now, how do we do that? First of all, you have to know the size of a business card. So normally business cards are 3.5 by 2 inches. So in inches, I'm going to set it to 3.5 inches, and the height is 2, and the resolution, because it's going to be printed, 300, and we create a new document. So with this, we now know the size of a business card. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a normal shape on top of this, and just for contrast. Now, because I have the options over here, I have to just tweak it. I'm going to set this to none, and after that, I want to change the color of this. I'm going to change the color to, my workspace is set to gray, so I have to change it. So to change this, now it's set to gray workspace. So to change this, I'll go to image mode, and I'll change it to RGB. Okay, so now that my workspace is set to RGB, I can change it to red, and this will help us see the color. I just did this to show you how important it is to actually get the exact size of the business card you want to create, that perspective view, if you want to use smart object and free transform. So with this done, we're going to bring this shape into our working document, which is over here. You bring it here. What we want to do is to right click on this layer and choose convert to smart objects. Now that we have the smart objects active, what that means is that if we double click on this and we replace anything here and we save, it's going to reflect here. But before we do that, let me show you how to use the free transform to place the image or the card here like this. To do that, make sure you have free transform checked, and it depends on which version of Photoshop you are using. If you're using CC 2019-2020, you don't have to hold the shift key while resizing, but I'll use the shift key, and you can also rotate it like this. Once you can rotate it to just control the angles, and you have to zoom in and zoom out as it requires. Now you have to right click and choose distort. Right click and choose distort, and you select the corners and you place it on like this. Now once you have this done, all we have to do is just to open this, and we're going to look for a business card. Opening our Photoshop business card file, and we're going to bring this in. When I bring this in, we've already talked about this. I'll convert to smart object. I'm going to place this there like I did before by right clicking and just choosing the placement. I've already talked about this in the previous lecture. With this done, let's say if I want to duplicate this image. Now the normal way of doing it is I'll hold the Alt key and I'll duplicate it and put it here. This is okay, but when I replace the background, let's say I want to put the front over here and make sure that the back is, let me close this so that we'll have this perspective. We want to put the back here and the front here. So when I replace this, the normal way of duplicating the smart object, and I put this into this folder, hold the shift and the alt to increase the size, and press enter and save it. And when I come back, you can see that it has changed both smart objects. So I'm going to undo it with Ctrl or Z, and the best way to do that is through smart object via copy. So smart object via copy helps you to non-destructively replace two smart objects. Let me show you how. By right clicking on this and you choose smart objects, new smart object via copy, we have two smart objects. So we can push one here, double click on this, and now let's bring the front here and let's see what happens. You can see that it has been replaced without actually affecting everything. So that is how you can use smart objects via copy to replace different smart objects. The next is replacing content. Now smart object is very key, and it's very useful when we are replacing content, especially in respect to what we're talking about. So for example, I'm going to delete this. For example, we want to make sure that we have all of this, like all these things has to, I'm going to use the Ctrl T as we did before. You put this here, enter, hold the Alt key and put this here, Ctrl T again, distort. So I'm actually going to put the same card on this, distort, I'm going to duplicate it with the Alt drag. Now, assuming we present this to a client and the client says he doesn't like the look of it, or probably he doesn't like the card, we can use this again by just replacing the content. Once we replace one of these by double clicking in the smart object and in the project files, assuming we bring this cloud background and we bring it in, hold the shift and the Alt to just maximize it, enter, and Control S to save, then you cancel. Then you can see that smart objects helps in replacing content. The sixth is link smart object. Now, link smart object has two basic use. One is it helps you save the file size. Let me show you how. Assuming we bring an image in, to actually access this, you have to go to File and you go to Place Link. If you go to the Place Link, in the project files, you have some images over here, and we're going to bring this image, one of these image over here. Because of the way we place this image, we place this as a link, and this helps us reduce the file size. Now, the difference between Photoshop and software like Illustrator and InDesign, one of the difference is that Photoshop actually embeds images, so it makes file size in Photoshop very large. So if you don't want your file sizes to be very large, because most of the times it's images that makes file size very large. So one of the ways you can go around that is by using the place linked images. So by using this, it actually brings it in as kind of a link. And with this, if I'm let's just add another place link, and let's add another image. Let's this time around add this. So we have two images here. If we go into the image folder, let's say we go into the image folder, the project files, and we delete, we're going to delete this. Before we delete it, right click, go to rename. I'm going to copy it with Control C, and I'm going to copy it with Control C. And now that I have it copied, I'm going to actually delete it, and I'm going to rename this image with the same name. So what I'm just trying to communicate to you is that once the image is moved and replaced with a new image with the same name, it's going to update automatically in Photoshop. So this is also another useful feature. Let's move on to the next, that is converting text layers into smart objects. Now this is very, very key. Why? Let me show you. In Photoshop, let's assume that, let me actually turn all of these off by grouping them first. Let me group them and just turn them off. Now, assuming we want to place a text, let's use a type tool and let's type smart object. I don't see the text because it's in this folder. I'm going to control the tracking of it. I'm going to set it to 0. Now we have smart object here. The size, I'm going to reduce the size. What normally you want to do with text is, if you want to place this text in a perspective view, like I talked to you about how to use a show transform control. If you press the Control T and you right click, you can see that you don't see the distort feature. Why? Because to see the distort feature, you have to do two things. You have to either come here and rasterize the text, or you can actually see the distort feature. This way of doing this will do two things. One, it will pixelate the text, and two, just in case, let's say it's a work you are sending to a client and the client says he doesn't want that text, you have to do it all over again. So let me save you that time. To actually work smart, you have to convert the text into a smart object, and Control T, right click and choose distort, and you're going to place this text on this photo like this. So it has to look real. So again, with perspective, you have to just play with it and make sure you have your angles right. Now this, we place this text here like this, and we send it to the client, and the client says, okay, he doesn't want smart object, but he wants holiday. So all we have to do is just open the smart object, type in holiday, and all we have to do is just save and close, Control W to close, and it automatically updates. So the 8th point is using smart filters. Now using smart filters is very, very key. Let me show you how. In the project files, we have some images here that I want us to use just as an example. I'm going to bring this image in, and if you want to apply a filter on this, let's say you want to apply a sharpen filter on this, you go to filter sharpen. Now doing this will sharpen the image, but What if you do a lot of things and later on you want to unsharpen it? You have to bring the image in and do it all over again. A smart way of doing this is just unlock the background, or you don't have to even unlock the background. Just right click and choose convert to smart object. Now that you have smart objects active, you go to filter, sharp, and you click on sharpen to sharpen the image. What the smart filter helps you do is it helps you, if I double click on the sharpen, especially on this setting icon, if you click on it, double click on it, it brings out the blending options. So this allows you to play even with the opacity, because different opacity has different results. I'm going to set it to normal. You can change the opacity of it. This is the blending mode. It helps you to change the blending mode, because different blending modes give you different results. This is very, very helpful when you are dealing with images like this. You are manipulating images like this. So let's move on to the next, which is using smart filter mask. That's the 9th point. So let me show you how you use this. Now with this image, we have 2 filter applied and it came in as a mask. Now having a mask helps us to creatively modify this image or manipulate this image. If you don't know anything about layer masks, I want you to check out my class on layer masks. It is very dope. So check that out, link below. With the blur, let's say with the sharpen act in masks, we say black conceals, white reveals. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and B key for brush. With a brush, before we actually apply the brush, let's use the paint bucket tool and set our foreground color to black and paint black on this just to hide the effect. Now that we have black to hide it, all we have to do is to press the B key to activate the brush tool, and with the brush tool, there are options. Make sure you have the hardness set to 0, the opacity 90%, you press 9 for 90. Then all we have to do is to paint white. Make sure you have your mask active. You paint white on this. That is going to bring out the sharpness of the eye. That is most of the time what we want to do when we come to manipulating photos and we want to add extra touch to a photo like this. You can toggle on and off this eyeball to see the before and after. Over there, I'm not sure you can actually feel it, but this is one power of smart filter mask. I'm going to turn on the blur layer, and with the blur layer turned on, you can see that actually whatever I applied is actually affecting the eye. I can undo this by painting black on this to undo this blur. We always want to apply the blur instead on the skin. So we can apply a blur on the skin by choosing, let's say, 30% blur with 3 on the keyboard for 30%. And you just paint white. Make sure you have your foreground color set to white, and you paint white on these sections, and you can see my mask is being affected. So that is how to use smart filter mask. The last point when it comes to smart object is shared source. Now, smart object has this magical feature of shared source, and I've probably talked about it several times, but probably you're not paying attention. So looking at, I'm going to just group this and hide all of this. And remember, I created some photo grids here. All these are in one folder and they share the same source. So in case you want to just replace this, we talked about it, you go into the folder and you just replace the images. But my tip for you here is make sure you name the images with a simple name like 1, 2, 3, so that you know that okay, this image 1, and when you come here, it's going to actually update. Also with this one over here, you can see that it's just one image and it has one location on the desktop, but because it's not linked, you have to actually bring them in, and it has the same source, like the same folder. So it helps you kind of manage your layers, it helps you manage your folders later on, and it helps you work more creatively, helps you work more in an automated way. You don't have to do things repeatedly. It helps you a lot. So that is how the share source feature of smart object helps you. So that is all for the 10 things you need to know about smart objects in Photoshop. Thank you for participating in this class. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye.